Welcome to this week's episode of the Top Podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Rob. Joined with me, my friends Mike.
At your service.
And back for the second time, I believe the second time ever, Arn. So it could be the third.
What's up?
I don't know.
No, second time,
cool.
But excited to be back.
Yeah. So this week we're doing our first ever book club get together. Lou was going to join us, but he got some dragon sickness, as you kind of heard last week. It really got to him after reading The Hobbit, so he's taking this week off. But first, we like to start off with an icebreaker. I want to know which Lord of the Rings property is your favorite. Mike, this question was your idea, so I'm going to toss it to you
Rivendell.
first.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't intentionally misunderstand. So, I mean, I'm not going to say the Return of the King video game because I've brought that up a gazillion times, so we'll set that one aside for this one.
2 Towers.
I had the Hobbit video game on Game Boy Advance, and I'm positive it was not as good as I remember it, but I remember it being super fun.
Never played that one. I had the Fellowship of the Ring on Game Boy Advance, which I guess it was shipped out broken, so you actually couldn't beat the game, but I never made it that far because it was pretty jank.
I had it on GameCube, which I assume it's the same game that we're all talking about. I doubt there were more than one.
Actually,
Hobbit
the Hobbit, there was the console one was different.
Usually,
than the Game Boy.
It was different.
Yeah, usually the Game Boy Advance game and the console game were basically two totally separate games. They would just use the same packaging to trick people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had the one on GameCube, and I haven't played it in a couple of years, but I remember going back and being like after moving on from GameCube and being like, this still kind of holds up other than having some weird controls. But
right,
that's such a good game.
Which is like half of GameCube games.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the charm.
Yeah.
When you're not banging
every time I
your
go
head
back to
against a wall.
PlayStation 2 games. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's right. It took them a while to like standardize controls.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm going to say the Undying Lands. That's my favorite property. I don't know, man. I mean, there's the books, so I feel like you can't not say the books. But if I was going to do that as a recency bias, I would say, yeah, we know you could. I would say Shadow of Mordor, just because I'm playing through it right now, so it's fresh in my mind.
Nice.
Nice.
If I were to try a new Lord of the Rings video game, that would without question be the first one I'd go to.
Fantastic. And you like the Arkham series, and it's basically that and Assassin's Creed mixed together.
Good Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, it was like early Assassin's Creed.
Because your tone. Yeah.
You know, like scaling buildings, parkour, and, doing the kind of the sync thing.
I do like that.
And the Nemesis system, which you can find out in next week's episode as I talk about the Nemesis system.
We didn't already record that. I don't know what you're talking about.
So this week, like I said, we're doing our book club. We're talking about The Hobbit, so we're going to start off with a very spoiler-free general overview. Who is sending stuff in the chat? They should need to get kicked from the server.
Oh wait, I didn't do my icebreaker.
Oh, I thought The Hobbit was yours. I'm sorry, Arn. What is your favorite?
I misinterpreted.
Yeah.
No, he was just contributing.
No, I can make mine short because I don't have that much to say about it other than the self-evident, but
hit us with it.
A Fellowship of the Ring. I think today I'm feeling the movie. The Fellowship of the Ring movie is my favorite property.
It's a good cozy one.
I love, if we're talking like just book, I think until you get to Rivendell, honestly, like some of the best stuff you can read. That's like my favorite section of the entire story.
For The Hobbit?
But no, for Fellowship. For Fellowship.
It was started very similar in that way.
Yeah, in that sense, I like the book better, but I think the movie as a whole, I love it so much, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually get to have the emotional conclusion of Boromir's death in the Fellowship rather than in Two Towers, which I prefer, but
you don't get the lament of Boromir.
That is true, but also, I don't know how well that would fit in a movie.
Is that basically a long song that he writes and sings while he's dying?
I think someone else sings it.
Like, yeah, it's okay. It's Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli's like elegy for Boromir. And fun fact about me, it is, I think I would still say it's my favorite song that Tolkien wrote. It's an amazing piece of poetry.
I'll have to link in the description, but there's this like almost all a cappella like men's group that sings a lot like the Lord of the Rings song, and they do a killer job on that one.
They do a killer job of it.
It's
I
like
can't say their name though.
so it's like Clay or something, I think. So that's a bit
Yeah, it's like I think it's Latin, and I think it's Clemevi de Profundis.
Yep.
But I'm
Well,
not sure if I'm
I
saying
can't pronounce
it
it
right.
either. I definitely know what it is, but I can't pronounce it.
would recommend. So, The Hobbit,
The
Yeah, why not?
Hobbit.
broad strokes, no spoilers. What do you guys think?
It's good, man. It's a good book.
It is.
Amen.
Top tier podcasting right there.
There, yeah, it's a good book. Go read it. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining, Darn. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. Yeah, it's
You go.
you go. Oh, I will go. Yeah, it's. I forgot how amazing of a book it is. I think, and I texted this in the discussion chat, but how amazingly it's paced was kind of lost on me as a kid. And now going back and reading it, it's like, oh, it's just so masterfully paced and like getting you invested in the story, and then it starts to like draw out the tension in the second half. And just as like an adventure story, and it has wit and heart and some real stakes that I kind of forgot about, and some really complex, more villainy characters, or like not villainy, but like the good guys are tainted with their own desires and wants that kind of really conflict with each other, that you see brought out more in Tolkien's later work that I forgot are like so integral to this story. But yeah, it's way better than I remembered, and I remember it being like really good. So
Yeah. I have heard some people, a few people, that have said that it starts off slow, and I did kind of feel that this read through. But I mean, overall, especially once you get out of the first chapter, it's like, I don't want to say it's all gas, but like it is very well paced, and it feels like a D&D session. Like I responded to you, Arn, in our Discord, which you can find the link below in our description, that it felt like a D&D campaign. Chapter 1, Session 0, you're getting introduced to the whole party and everything, and then it's like, every chapter is almost like a session that you would go through.
yeah, I totally see that.
What did you guys...
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, go for it.
Go ahead.
I was going to...
I mean, it's a slow start, but I really like dry British stuff, and so like it's slow, but it's slow in a good way in my like for my taste at least,
And at the end of the day, it was, 10 and a half hours if you listen to the Andy Serkis version. So, 10% might be slow. I know plenty of epic fantasy books where it feels like, 30 to 40% is slow and it's still like high praise. So, and in my book, it's not bad. Like, yeah, you might got to push through some of it, but you're going to enjoy it, and the payoff is definitely worth it at the end. What did you guys overall rank this book before we move on to spoilers?
Oh man,
Out of
I'd give
10,
it at the very least an 8, but I think a 9 is reasonable.
Yeah,
Yeah, I gave it a 8.5. So I'm like right in between. Some parts that the slow start kind of brings it down, but as we said, payoff's worth it, and we'll get into more. But I think 8.5 is where I'm landing on my overall.
yeah. I think 8.5 is fair. I think I'm gonna lean more towards a 9, really, just because there is one like major thing that I can think of that's like I think I have as a critique, and everything else is just like spectacular. So I'm going with a 9.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the spoiler section now. If you guys want to read along with us, we are starting a new book. The vote is currently going on in the Discord. I think by the time this is coming out, you only got like a day or so. So be sure to head on over. All three of us have made picks, and it is a close race. So you could be the deciding vote. This is where your vote matters, is on the top podcast. Go join our Discord. You've had plenty of warning for almost 100-year-old book, not to be spoiled, but what do you guys want to talk about first? So we got categories of settings, prose/vibe, plot, characters, and narrator. Where do you guys want to start?
So, Andy Serkis.
All right, let's go with narrators.
I think overall he was really good. I felt like he didn't understand that this book was British, and especially
Isn't he
at the
British?
beginning, his narrative. I don't know, maybe, but like he doesn't seem to get the idea of dry British wit to me. So like, specifically in the beginning, basically until like you get to the goblins, I was just losing my mind with the way he would narrate, because there's parts that they're slow, dry British on purpose. And it was like he was trying to, in his inflection, like add excitement to parts that aren't supposed to be exciting. It's like if like a joke that's supposed to be delivered with dry humor, I don't need Daffy Duck delivering the punchline. And that's a little bit how it felt, where I was like, hey man, you don't need to spice this up. It's supposed to be a little like on the dry end. That's the appeal. And his songs, I adore Rob Inglis's version and the way he does the songs. And with the exception of the Goblin song, that's supposed to be chaotic and not really on beat, I felt like the fact that, like, I think the only reason I liked Andy Serkis's version of that is because the man couldn't stay on beat to save his life. And so it worked well for him in that instance. But I felt like he butchered the songs. That said, holy crap, his Gandalf, his Thorin, his Smaug.
I thought he was okay with
Amazing.
Gollum. I like the guy in the movies better.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's fair. Gollum was really good. That's a gimme. His Gollum was incredible. I have heard people even say that his Gollum in the books is even better than his Gollum was in the movie. I don't know if that's true or not,
I feel like
But-
they're about equal.
which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So we all listened to Andy Serkis. I have never heard Rob Inglis's version or rendition of this story, but I'm giving him a 9 out of 10. Like, it was fantastic. Yeah, he could have done better on the songs, but he's not known for his singing, and I just think he killed it. And I know Teacher Andrew, who commented in Discord, that Andy Serkis agrees with me that nailing it with his reading. Then Becca says Andy Serkis was born to be a narrator. This is probably the third or fourth time I've listened to The Hobbit, and his narration makes it like I'm listening to a whole new experience. So, what do you think, Arn?
I think I'm gonna give him an 8. I think overall, I really loved his narration of it. The songs left a bit to be wanted. And it was interesting listening to them because I felt he kind of was like drawing on the melodies that have already been created for the songs, but kind of just sticking to them a little bit poorly or only doing certain parts like that. But in the other one I've listened to was a radio drama version of The Hobbit, and the version of Goblin Town in that was, if you ever watched like the old animated Return of the King,
Fantastic.
the song the orcs sing, it's much more similar to that than what Andy Serkis did. Yeah, and I really preferred Serkis's performance of that, like Mike said. And then the other thing, which I'm not sure if this is what Mike was saying or not, but he kind of has a tendency to do like almost a YouTuber type voice for certain things, where he'll like pitch his voice up and down, or it's like he's riding a wave for certain things, where he goes like faster and then slower, and it's a little bit jarring, but that's not most of the book. And other than that, like, I thought he did a stellar job. The voices were amazing. I listened to most of my books on 1.2, so I had to slow it down when he was Gollum because it was just a little bit fast. Um, but I felt all of his vocal performances were great. Um, like on the whole, and then I just love the way he, especially when he's doing like a description scene. I love the way he kind of like tries to characterize the things almost with like how he describes it and uses his voice. But yeah, I'm giving him an 8. He did great.
Mike, are you thinking like a 6? 6 out of 10?
I mean, I'd give him a 7.5.
Okay.
Like, and
Still
even
pretty
that feels
good,
a little
but-
low. 7.8, 9. Yeah, like he was good. He was really good. And to be fair, I grew up listening to the Rob Inglis version, so I'm probably a little biased and not giving him quite enough slack. And yeah, like I'm being harsh on nitpicky things. I don't even, as a rule, I don't even like I was talking to my dad about this last night when he reads the Lord of the Rings, he just skips all of the poems and the songs. Neither of us like them. I was like, yeah, I'm right there with you. But in The Hobbit, I kind of like them because I like Rob Inglis. And I think in The Hobbit, they sometimes are important because they do a really good job establishing lore or setting the tone. There's certain songs I could live without, like the Elrond Elves song. I prefer Rob Inglis's version. I prefer it even more if it's not in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Goblin song, yeah, when they're captured far under the misty mountains, those two are immediately come to mind as like those are really big and important. The Goblin song again when they're doing the fire. That was the one I felt was the biggest tragedy. That one upset me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's not the important part. It's not the lion's share of the book. And yeah, I definitely felt like the YouTube rhythm thing it was the perfect way to describe it. Like it'd be points where I'm like, this is supposed to be slow, and he's like doing everything he can with his inflection to make it sound exciting. And I was like, dude, it's not exciting. It's okay. Calm down.
Well, from there, I guess we'll move on to plot. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. It's very good. Might be a little low compared to you guys. I don't.
Yeah, I think as far as the plot goes, I think plot is largely driven by character development, and I think plot is largely reflective of the character beats. And I felt like I really enjoyed this time, at least. I really enjoyed the way Bilbo develops as a character, and I enjoyed the pacing of the plot immensely. So I'd give it an 8.5.
I'm trying to decide between whether I want to give it an 8 or a 9. I really like the plot. It's a simple plot done brilliantly. And it's very much retains the fairy story plot that Tolkien is so fond of, and that I am also very, very fond of. Fairy tales are one of my favorite mediums of story, and the slightly episodic, but overarching story that he creates, I think it's just a super great way to railroad a story. And you experience and feel Bilbo's development throughout it, and like Mike was saying, the different things kind of match it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9.
Dang.
Which might be a little bit high for some people. I think it's mostly just that it's like this is like my kind of story, and I really like this type of plot. So it might not be a 9 for everyone, but I think it's a 9 for me.
For me, and part of it is this was written for kids, so the plot is very simple and straightforward. So I think this is like the higher end of where I'd write a kid's book. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's what he was going for. But like I it's a well done, masterful, simple plot, but I enjoy like even like just a good like interweaving, more deep and thick plot. So I feel like eight's usually like the highest I would give like any quote unquote children's book simple plot. So it's near that for perfection. I'm just kind of docking it a little bit for the slow start, but that could be some of my
Oh
biases
yeah,
on that as well.
absolutely. Like the I really love like political intrigue stories, and those really have like the multiple intertwining different things, creating almost like this tapestry of story. And they're just very different. The reason I gave it a 9 is just I think it's a simple it's one thread, but it's the perfect thread for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like that. I don't remember what chapter it was, but the title I believe was called "Fire and Water" or something like that. And you kind of it's when the smog actually goes and attacks the town, and you get that combat. But then you also get the political intrigue of like what's the leader of the town, like how is he maneuvering around Bard and the people like starting to rally around him. And I thought that was really fantastic and interesting. And obviously you don't want that all in a kid's book, but like that ended up being like one of my top two favorite chapters because we just got that sprinkle in of like the political intrigue and everything.
yeah, and I love that Tolkien trusts his generally child readers enough to sprinkle that stuff in. And I think that's kind of what elevates it above a lot of children's stories is that it's not it's simple, but it's not ordinary.
Mm-hmm. More complex
So
than
it's
most Narnia books.
yeah, and it's simple, but it's not like dumb. Like it's like it's intended for kids, but it's written like it's for adults.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you guys put the setting?
I mean, that was it's okay. So it's bog standard fantasy. There's nothing special about it whatsoever, but it's also like the first of its kind. Yes, like
Kind of. I mean,
it was kind of also prototypical, so it's not really fair to ding it for being bog standard because everyone ever since then has just kind of ripped it off. So I mean, I think it's been diluted by time a little bit, but so I'd give it a 7, but like with a huge asterisk of like it's unfair that I'm giving it a 7.
so I actually agree with you. I gave it a 7. I thought people were going to knock at me, but I'm coming from the Hobbit itself and not Middle Earth as a whole. As the Hobbit story itself, there's not really like too much. Like, yeah, you get some like hints at other stuff and all that, but for the most part, it's your pretty stapled standard fantasy. And I don't know. To me, it like, yeah, it was just it is in the world that is one of the most realized fantasy worlds ever created, but you couldn't tell that from this book. And and one thing that was weird to me is coming from just listening to the Silmarillion, I got whiplash with the elves. It's like, oh man, these elves are war hungry, kin-slaying elves, and these guys are just singing and dancing and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh. To be fair, he wrote this came out a lot like before that, but it's just a little whiplash there, which not the setting's fault.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, it's part of the setting too. Like with that is it was probably a different time because like I was talking about that with Rob's mother-in-law, where she was like, yeah, like Elrond and the elves are a little different in The Hobbit than they are in The Lord of the Rings. I was like, well, yeah, but like the world stage is a little different in The Lord of the Rings than it is in The Hobbit.
It's only been 60 years though, for an elf that's
well, yeah,
like a year.
Sure, but a lot has happened in the world in 60 years. The necromancer gets booted and then resets, and now you got the ring and like all sorts of that was a big 60 years. It's enough to make Elrond a little grumpy again.
What about you, Arn? Where are you rating the setting?
Okay, this will be my controversial pick. I think I'm gonna even go a little bit lower than you guys. I'm gonna give it a 6.5. My reason for that is that it is, yes, it's bog standard fantasy. But I would argue it's honestly, it's super generic. There are imaginative things thrown in, but it is very much world or story centric world building, and you don't really get anything outside of that. I feel like generally in like your standard fantasy, there are more hints at like an outside world, and it feels more developed. Which maybe it's not necessarily what you want for this type of story, but as far as like how the world is developed, a point in its favor is a point in its favor, you know. Um, I think it does the job it needs to, but it's not extraordinarily fleshed out.
Hmm.
You get to see a little bit beyond Bilbo's view with, yeah, there's foreign forces coming in at the Battle of Five Armies, and there's hints of things that might be going on in other places, like where's Gandalf screwing off to all these times. Um,
Well, if he was there to
but
solve
as
every
like,
problems, it wouldn't be much of a story.
no, sure. That's why they have to kill him in the Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Um,
Spoiler. We haven't
oh,
gotten there yet, Arn.
sorry. Yeah, I guess that one's not quite 100 years old yet. Um,
It's like 70.
uh, yeah, but yeah, like as a world, it's very standard England, but you got some fantasy creatures thrown in, um, and there are elements that are as whimsical as and fantastic as they need to be, but in general, it feels very standard.
Hmm.
Um, which you know, not a knock against it. I'm just saying, like in the grand scheme of fantasy, I give it a 6.5.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's got you got
And
your caves, your dark forest, and your plains. Like that's kind of
yeah,
three main settings.
Yeah, you
yeah,
got cave, you got mountain, you got forest, you got mountain with a lake.
yep,
Like,
yeah. And like then, if you compare it to Lord of the Rings, which is a significant step up in like the world game,
Hmm.
even if
and the
you
page
strip
count.
out, yes, for sure. But even if you strip out all of like the lore and poems that get built up, just the experience of the hobbits walking through areas, I feel like it tells more about the world and shows a lot more about Tolkien's skill as a writer in that area than it does in The Hobbit.
Hmm. Kind of a side tangent. I just don't know if you guys have ever thought about this. Something I heard. Did you guys realize that all three Lord of the Rings books are six? If you're a snob like that, basically all of them are like this only a little larger in word count. My goodness, I can't speak. Than like a Stormlight Archive book, which I thought was crazy. It's like the peak fantasy is like one normal epic fantasy, and it's like three books and everything. That's wild to me.
So all three, the complete Lord of the Rings comes out to one Brandon Sanderson.
Basically, yeah, one of his longer ones.
Yeah, it's I think my edition of the Lord of the Rings, which I'm a snob, so I have the one volume edition.
Well,
Um,
I got two of them. Oh no,
well, I don't think I have two of them at my house
no, that's
actually. Dang it. Um,
got him.
but mine is like maybe 1,050 something, 1,060 something, which I think is the length of like the shortest Storm like archive book, The Way of Kings.
And that includes
But
appendices.
it does, yes, it does include the appendices. Or my appendices are in Roman numerals, so they're
Ooh,
separate actually.
wow,
But
that's nifty.
but yeah, the formatting of Lord of the Rings is very it's a choice because there's six books and they're each one is it's basically you have like Frodo's perspective in the first one, and then after that it's the Fellowship, and then for the next four it alternates. So
Hmm.
um it's the I guess the not humans but the big people, and then Frodo Sam, and then the big people, then Frodo and Sam. So they're not like the. I feel like everyone tells you nowadays you kind of want to have coinciding events happen coincidingly in the chapters, and Tolkien's just like, nope, we're gonna have all of this, and then we're gonna go back in time like 6 weeks.
Hmm.
But
Well, I would love to get more into that, but we are just talking about The Hobbit, so we'll try to reel it back in. Cantwell, I think, would rate it a little higher for setting. He says he really likes the fun myth lore and the calls back to mysterious events of the past. And one thing I got beef with the movies in the Hobbit trilogy
geez.
and the Lord of the Rings movies. One thing that they leave out every single time is Gandalf's sword should also glow blue, but it doesn't. It's made in Gondolin just like Sting, but it does not glow blue at all.
Wait, they leave that out in both of them?
Yep, it's not in the either Peter Jackson's
super
thing.
valid complaint.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really cares, but it's one of my complaints. All right, do you guys want to talk about prose/vibe or characters next?
I want to talk about characters.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So this was where I when we picked this. I think my dad asked me, he was like, "What's your angle on this going to be? Like, what the heck are you going to say that nobody else has said?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be critical. Like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to find what's wrong with it, I'm going to attack it. I'm actually going to, I'm not going to just going to let this thing fly on nostalgia." And my bullseye was set on, you got 13 characters and they boil down to Thorin and the dwarves, and there's almost no difference. Like, you can get through the whole book, and anytime a dwarf speaks whose name isn't Thorin, it doesn't particularly matter. Like, you'll be just fine. You'll experience the story the same way. I was so ready to just go to town on that. And honestly, it didn't bother me in the slightest. Like, yeah, I don't think the dwarves have a lot of character development. Sure, Bofer, Bomber,
Bomber?
Whichever. Like, one of them's nice, and one of them's old, and one of them's fat.
Bombers.
And,
that's my spirit animal.
But, it's mostly irrelevant. But, at the same time, it's they're not the point. The story is about Bilbo, and it's about Thorin to a lesser extent. And the story is told very well with that in mind. And the dwarves are just supporting ensemble in the background, and that's okay. And it didn't bother me in the slightest. I expected it to. And yeah. So my big complaint, the thing I was ready to just uncork on, it was fine.
So you give that a 6? Is that your
No,
fine?
I give so here's the thing. I wouldn't take them into account when doing the characters, right? I'd be like, Thorin, good character. Bilbo, good character. Gandalf, he's a plot device more than a character, but I like him for what he is. Gollum, awesome character. Bjorn, pretty cool character. King of the Elves,
What's his
good
name?
for what he is. Dale, not Dale, Bard from Dale, good character. Smaug, good character. The Master, good character. Yeah, there are no bad characters. The dwarves they are there to fill in the setting and fill in the story. They're not there to have their story told. And when you acknowledge that, I don't think there's a weak character in the whole bunch.
I don't know. Bjorn could have had some more fleshed out. So
I mean, yeah, there could have been more, but I don't think that was the point. I would read a Bjorn story, but he was there. He got set up enough. He showed up. When he showed up, it felt on brand for what was set up. I would have liked more of him as well, but I don't think he was a bad character.
Well, I know he's Jacob's favorite character. He put that in our Discord. See, I feel
that tracks.
I get what you're saying, and I respect it, but this was my lowest thing. I gave it a 5 out of 10, and I did bump it up because, yes, there are, for the sake of, arguments, only 3 real characters that you see throughout the whole journey, but you're still getting all these names thrown at you. And I tried to sit down and even see how many memorable characters I can remember their names, because yes, I know the Lord of Eagles. I know his name starts with the T. Don't know it. That type of thing. So I'm from a memorable character's perspective, which is to me what kind of I'm going for, there's 3 out of, maybe, we'll even say, I don't even think there's 30, but 30, and it's that I just can't give, a super high rating for that, because
if you count all the dwarves, there might be 30.
That's what I was going for. And so I have a list of what I remembered. Memorable characters for this book to me were Bilbo, Gandalf, and again, these are ones I could recall from memory. Thorin Oakenshield, Bomber, just because he's a meme. There's a whole subreddit dedicated to Bomber, so I had to shout out my boy Bomber. Bjorn, Gollum, Bard, and Smaug. And then there's 3 that are important, I think, because of Lord of the Rings. But if if Lord of the Rings wasn't written, I don't
yeah,
think
nobody cares
Thorin,
about
Elrond,
Glenn.
and the Necromancer would have been that memorable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Necromancer. I think isn't it like an appendices that you figure out that he's technically Sauron?
I think
It's in the Council of Elrond, and
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I personally, for me, I refuse to let the other books influence my opinion of The Hobbit.
Mhm.
Like, I'm speaking purely as how does this thing hold up as its own book.
which should be, because that's what we're talking about.
I agree. And because I don't care for any of the other books, so I'm like, this is the only one that counts for Michael's headcanon. And yeah, now I do think maybe I'm misunderstanding you, so please correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like, or it sounded for a moment like you were saying you have to remember somebody's name for them to count as a memorable character, and I disagree with that.
See, that I mean, we can discuss that, but like, it's like how do you know if your D&D character is memorable? Is if after a while after the campaign, your other table members can recall that character, and that's like a memorable character. So for me, it's like if I can remember their name, then I know Shadowfax, Lord of the Horses, but I can't remember Tendril. I don't know. I just listened to I started the Unfinished Tales today and can't even remember the Lord of Eagles names, and he came up. But it's like, I don't know. To me,
Well, yeah, but you
that makes
remember
a
the Lord of
difference.
Eagles. I just don't think that like if you remember remembering their name is maybe it's because I'm bad at names in general, and so I'm like it's not important that we remember people's names. I got your face.
Mhm.
But I'm like, yeah, Lord of the Eagles. Nah, I don't think the Lord of the Eagles was a great character.
Okay.
But like that was a memorable scene.
Let-
But I don't remember the I don't remember the elf king's like chief butler's name either, and I really enjoyed that.
Mhm.
Like that guy's brief appearance, memorable.
Okay, let me rephrase because I think I get what you're saying. Not memorable characters, great characters. How's that? A great character is when you know their title and their like name. So like the Hound is Sandor Clegane, the Mountain's Gregor Clegane. That type of, or the Mountain is, so like you learn these different. Not only do you know their titles, but you know their name. I think that to me is what makes like a great character. And obviously, like you have Bilbo and Gandalf and Thorin, and I feel like those are great characters, but the rest are, to me, it's just kind of devoiding. So that's why I gave it such a low ranking.
I mean, I think screen time and exposure is more important to like. I think the factors that result in remembering a name has less to do with the quality of the character and more to do with how much time you spend with them.
I got one rebuttal to you for that. That is in universe. Tom Bombadil. Mic drop. Bam! Everyone remembers Tom Bombadil if they read the book.
Congratulations.
Love him or hate him.
You
You remember Tom Bombadil.
like. Yeah. My argument to that would be there's going to be outliers to everything, and some things are so weird you don't forget them. I don't think Tom Bombadil's a great character just because I remember his name.
Yeah, I think
his name.
Using Tom Bombadil is definitely a bit of a.
Oh, it's a stretch.
Everyone remembers when the bomb drops on the grassy field. He's just so out of left field.
You know who's a great character?
Honestly, to be fair,
Steve from Minecraft.
Know his name?
So good.
Everyone knows his name?
Yeah. Everything you need to know about him.
Played by Jack Black. I mean, yeah, great character. Sorry, I
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I don't even remember where I was. Oh, I was just on the Tom Bombadil. It's just he's so out of left field, arguably less so with like Fellowship compared to like the rest of the books. But he's so out of left field he doesn't really count. But I agree with what Rob was saying a little bit in that I think, and maybe not necessarily for people who struggle a lot with remembering names, but as far as like what separates like a good character from a great character, I think there's an element of like remembering the name and everything they are. That comes with that. I think part of that is that when characters have more screen time, it gives them the ability to go from a good, memorable character to that great character. I think that's why I would say a character like Thorin or like Bilbo is more of is more on the road towards a great character than they are someone like Bard or not even Bard, like the Master. The Master is super memorable, super interesting. He's a great, like not quite villain, but sleazy brat character, and he's memorable. But is he great in the sense of a character like Frodo or like Dallin R. Colin for Rob and anyone else who's read the Stormlight Archive, or like even Kvothe from Name of the Wind? Are they great characters that you like really understand and you see all their complexities and little things? If you don't have time to see all those complexities, so I think that's what separates it for me. And I guess it's not my turn yet, but that's like my
Go
two
for it.
cents on the conversation.
So where would you rank it?
I think I'd give I'd say there's more like great or like super memorable characters than maybe you said, at least for me, but it's still not like the whole cast. I think in terms of memorable characters, I'd give it a 7, or character in general. There are a lot of memorable characters. There are some characters that I entirely forget about, but they're essentially, like Mike was saying, they're essentially plot devices. I don't really think of them as characters, or it's something that it's like, oh, I want more from this, and I didn't get it. I feel like everything that is necessary and everything you want, I feel like is done so well. I think it's just I really enjoy all of the little complexities you see in just all the characters, especially as they start turning a little bit bad. Thorin he's so driven, and you just see him going for this thing, and then you finally get to the end, and he's been like kind to Bilbo, but also like, you're my employee, and then you see him take this road down into what I care about is the Arkenstone, and I am going to step on you to get it if I have to. And the same thing with like the Master of, he's a character that is like kind of, he's welcoming but wary, and then you see different angles to him, and it's a very brave choice for a character in a children's book to have like this welcoming character, and then he kind of has these darker sides to him of like not caring about people, because like you'd expect, they get to the city, they get welcomed by this guy, and then that's it, or maybe he even welcomes them back at the end when they need it. But no, he's kind of a brat. And then also time back in with Thorin refuses to help the people of Lake Town after he basically sends a dragon to burn their town down
Right.
on accident. But having, especially thinking of it as a kid's book and thinking, oh, the guy who's been leading our party, like we know he's maybe not like the moral paragon that Bilbo is, but he's still a good guy. And then all of these now homeless lake people are coming, and he's just like, frick off, I need my gold. It's such a good choice for a character. And I think I'm talking myself into a higher score right now. But
So you guys talk a rare time. I changed my mind. I'll give it a 6. I'll bump it up.
Hey!
yeah,
We got one.
My talking paid off. But yeah, like all the characters that need to have something, they have that something, and it's done so well in my opinion. And then what Mike was saying, I think I bear a little bit more credit to, like, credit in the negative sense of, yeah, half of these dwarves are forgotten about and I don't care about them. But it's still like they essentially serve as plot devices rather than characters, and it's not like, oh, I need more from this character. But I do think it is a little bit of a blemish on the story that we don't get more characterization from more than 3 or 4 of the dwarves. But also it's kind of it makes the story more believable on a whole because the Bilbo and the three dwarfs aren't going to go take the thing. Having a party of 13 makes it be like, oh, I can see this adventuring party.
14.
So,
even though their numbers literally never once helped them throughout the whole thing.
Well, how much of the book would be solved if Bomber was, jacked? If we had buff Bomber, they could have just
if we had
Smog one shot. It would have been one punch.
Yeah, duplex Smog and then
Bomber's from the top ropes.
Honestly,
he's got a chair.
I don't know that would make a difference. They get snuck up on in their sleep. Ripped Bomber wouldn't have helped with that.
He could have broken out of those sacks. He said, "These can't hold me."
He could have gone toe-to-toe with the trolls, man.
Maybe, but probably not.
The Mirkwood and dropping Bilbo would have been like the only two differences.
Yeah. Well, and even then, like, I don't know. You could be jacked, if a jacked person who gets their ankles grabbed in the dark, they're going down just as bad as the big dude. Like,
I don't know. Have you seen David Montgomery run?
Wait, no, but they would be they would have been so screwed because they would have been fine up until Mirkwood, and if the plot plays out similar-ish at all, and Bomber, which it probably would because Bomber would probably be more heavy if he was jacked, and he still falls in the river, and now they're just stuck with this 2,000-pound jacked dwarf.
Hold on. Rob's version of Bomber here just catches the deer by the throat, breaks its neck, and eats it raw. So they're good.
He's got a 20 strength, 20 dex.
But
the only thing is maybe intelligence.
I don't know if there's
the spiders might not have even been an issue because
Bomber would have saved them.
They'd been scared, yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't have because didn't they run off the path and then they get knocked? Yeah, they run off the path to get to try and get the deer.
Bomber would have missed. That's all I'm saying. Buff Bomber, or one rock, just bam, insta kill.
Yeah. Point is, they got 13 guys, and not once are 14. They all armed and ready for a fight until 14 guys. They got 13 dwarves who are combat ready at the start. And
you can't hit a freaking deer.
They literally don't show up for a fight until the Battle of the Five Armies. At which point, the 13 of them showing up is like painted like this crazy, like, we got reinforcements. It's like you got 13 short guys. Like,
it would have been two armies versus Buff Bomber, let me tell you, and the Buff Bomber would have won. He would have beaten the goblins and the ravens or all, crows. I don't remember which one the evil birds were. Buff Bomber could have taken them all. There was something actual sustenance I wanted to switch to, but now I can't remember Buff Bomber. He's got me sweating. Whew.
Oh yeah. Let's go to the forums, see if they got anything for us.
I think it's the church. Like I said, there's a subreddit dedicated to Bomber. One thing I think is funny, Bilbo needs to learn to wear a helmet. That my man has CTE. Like, knocked out twice by heavy rocks.
At least the second time he was wearing a helmet.
Was he? I thought he was just invisible. Did he have on a helmet? I don't know if it said that.
He is because I don't remember them where exactly they say it, but I remember being like, how small was the rock that his head didn't just get smashed? Mm-hmm. And then I think he's talking to the guy, and he says it like dented my helmet pretty good, but I'm okay.
Okay.
I can't really walk though, and then he's like,
"Did he catch a stray from an eagle?
One of the birds dropped it on his head.
I'm surprised his neck didn't break. Screw your helmet, like your spine's just gone. It's in more pieces than it started in. Apparently not.
Short and stout.
Why is 14 the lucky number? Just because it's one up from 13? I always thought like 7. Maybe it's a British thing. Is 14 the lucky number? I always thought 7
I think it's that. I think it's that 13 is an unlucky number, and so they weren't going to get rid of somebody, so they went up to 14.
Yeah,
really in trouble though. If someone died, we would have to kill off someone else. The trolls weren't arguing. There was about to be a. We'd have to call one.
Oh, I will say one point that Andy Serkis definitely gets above Rob Inglis is with the trolls. When Gandalf is speaking for the trolls, he actually uses a troll voice. Rob Inglis uses his Gandalf voice when he's
Oh.
Gandalf trying to confuse the trolls. And that never sat right with me even as a child. I was like, I can tell who's who.
Mhm.
Why are the trolls this dumb?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Mhm.
Point for Andy Serkis there, for
There
sure.
you go.
Good job, Andy.
I guess last thing we have to talk about is pro/vibe. I figure this is probably gonna be high for everybody because who we're talking
Oh,
about.
very high.
Very.
The description of the Arkenstone caught me off guard. I don't have it to hand, but I thought it was one of the best written descriptions of an item ever. I was like, oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
And that's why everyone wants it.
Yeah, like even the way he wrote it, I was like, I get it now. Like that sounds, I want that. And I love the dry humor. I love when he splits off and is like, no, you're like, I'm sure you know what it is. Or, of course, Tom Noddy would be insulting to anybody. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know what that means.
I will say that's one thing I've found myself I enjoyed more than I thought for like reading Narnia and like the more kids focused things is I like the little interjections from the author. I think they're fun and done right.
Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite, like, geared at a younger audience books is The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald. Which, fun fact, he was a big inspiration for both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. But he does a lot of interjections that are just they're so witty and funny, and it's not like William Goldman like in Princess Bride, but it is like he provides context for random things in just a very humorous way, and I love that in The Princess and the Goblin, and I loved it in The Hobbit too.
So what are you guys rating
is a
it out of
Hobbit?
10?
Oh, vibes and prose?
Yeah.
10. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way he
I'm giving it 9.5 just because there are some of his other books are better, so that's the only reason. Which might be probably should just be a 10 because it's Tolkien. I want to be contrite.
To me.
I want to be contrite.
If earlier you agreed that we should just be rating the book as the book, knocking a half a point off because it's not as good as other books he wrote seems outrageous to me. But you do you.
What are you giving it, Arn?
Hey man, I can't be left out of the club. I'm also gonna give it a 10.
All right, I'll just stick
But
with
I was
9.
planning on giving it a 10. Oh no. We can't have 10s across the board.
Nope.
But no,
Rob is the Russian judge.
Yes. But yes, I am giving it a 10. I honestly don't think I enjoy any of Tolkien's writing more than I enjoyed The Hobbit. I love his. I think what Mike said about his description of the Arkenstone applies to a lot more things throughout in, just like in substance of like what that is. He's really good at characterizing something through its description, which is in my mind is a hallmark of a great description. Is that it's not just what does this thing look like or what does this thing do? It's how does it do it, and how does this characterize the world and the people who potentially made it or who are going to be interacting with it? And with a person, what do you tell when you look at a person? You can understand a lot about them just by the way they dress, the way they walk, how they hold their head, and descriptions that do that, which Tolkien in this book does very well. That tell you about the person because of their demeanor and how they present themselves and just what they do is really great, and it's done super well in this book. And then the other point I have that like really stuck out to me because I didn't remember it as much is that the way Tolkien writes his wit is. And not even just like British dry humor, which is very fun, and I notice it a lot more with like the interjections. Um, but it is there like throughout the book. But his wit when he's writing just like the scenes that are supposed to be witty, whether it's like riddles in the dark or the whole scene when Bilbo introduces himself to Smaug. That one, the Smaug and Bilbo scene, stuck out to me more than I think most of the scenes in the book. Probably just because I didn't realize like how great it is, and the the prose in like how he constructs it and like has this slow building tension and then the explosive action of Smaug finally figuring out who he is, and starting breaking all hell on Bilbo. And then just like you see this arc of like Bilbo's slow confidence rising up. But then it's all done through like these not riddles battles like riddles in the dark, but like these poking jabs of wit and like trying to figure out who is this person, and you really like see each of their desires in like what are they trying to get out of this conversation or what are they trying to do. I really enjoyed that, and I saw it more throughout the book than I did when listening to it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if there's more I can say without like going in circles, but the wit was super good, and just the descriptions and the general setting were great.
Mm-hmm.
And also, tying back to my earlier point about the actual setting, I don't think the setting is super dynamic or inventive, but I think the vibes of the setting are great.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love the way it's characterized, and just everything about it, from the things that inhabit it to how he describes the actual setting itself. There's enough like little pieces of whimsy thrown in, like there's they're walking by and it's a thunderstorm, but also there's giants throwing stones at each other down there, or just there's other things with like Bjorn's house and just the descriptions of stuff in there.
It's like, fine, what's two more? On. Okay.
Yeah, right? That's another thing.
Five is like, much greater than 3.
Yeah. But that's another example of just the wit that I really liked, is that it has like that fairy tale. There's a lot of those fairy tale aspects of like, how do you get past the Sphinx, or you outsmart a Fae by, or the way you beat a Fae is by outsmarting them, and whether it's by riddle battles or doing something crafty and cunning to get past a foe greater than yourself. I really enjoyed how he incorporated those very fairy tale elements into the story, and I think that's part of why I like the vibe so much, is that it has the vibe of a fairy tale, and it treats you like an adult when you read it. Which, like, fairy tales, having read a lot of fairy tales are very much for adults if you read traditional fairy tales, even if they're not like crazy violent stuff, or crazy sexual stuff, which there's a lot more of that in fairy tales than people realize.
Especially nowadays. We see romanticy.
It's just more graphic nowadays. It's been implied for centuries.
They just say it instead of allude.
Yeah. No, they show it. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, the fairy tale aspects pair super well, and even though it's not like dark or adult, he still throws in those elements that kind of treat you like an adult, and bring it beyond just like child binge fun stuff. So, but yeah, I'm giving it a 10. I enjoyed the writing so much, and I enjoyed just the whole vibe of the story so much.
Same. I think that was our last category, but I do. Lou did want me to mention, since he wasn't able to be here, the description when Smaug is showing his underbelly to Bilbo, and it said that it said something to the effect of Smaug showed Bilbo the under part of the dragon. Lou did want to know: are we talking about Dragon Dong there, or is that just him?
Hey, he was showing Bilbo his pride and his glory, wasn't he? So
I'm sure Martin.
that's all I'll say about that.
Mike, if you want Dragon Dong, you gotta go look at Martin for that one.
Well, this is Lou's question. I'm just repeating it.
Lou, you gotta go read a Fire and Blood or Fire and Blood.
Do dragons have dongs? I would imagine they have a cloaca, like a lot of reptiles.
Yeah. Does he ever mention if Smaug is a 2-legged or 4-legged dragon? So does he go with Wyvern or dragon? I don't know if you.
I want to say he's 4-legged, but that's just from pictures.
Yeah, from the movies, both movies, he's a prim and proper dragon. But
Well, pre-movies, there's also pictures. Let me see.
He has a drawing
copy
of
nearby.
Doesn't he have a drawing with Smaug?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. Well, more than 2 seconds, but.
One thing I completely forgot about when we're waiting for Mike is Bilbo is 100% like a trust fund baby. I completely forgot about that. He's just spending his days eating and smoking and drinking. What a punk.
Yeah.
I never picked up on that as a kid.
He has no adventure.
Like, he would definitely be a frat boy in Hobbiton, frat clapping around.
Yeah. I didn't, to be honest, I don't know if I really processed that this time either, but yeah, you're so right.
Yeah, he just does nothing.
And what's also funny is that, after Frodo comes to live with him, he's definitely in the same situation.
Yeah. I mean, he's freaking stacked even with just those 2 ponies back, the troll sword.
Yeah.
Also, what's Gandalf going to spend that gold on? He said I can use some of that gold. What's he doing? Want some more drip or something? I don't know.
Yeah, what did Gandalf... That's how he bought all those fireworks.
There you go. That is, yep. There it is.
I have just the stash for this.
I think based on the illustrations, he was a 4-legged dragon.
Okay. Sounds good. Mike, did you pick up, I don't know if you heard this, that Bilbo was a trust fund baby? Just living the high life?
Yeah, his father built the hole mostly with his mother's money.
Yeah. And just sitting enjoying, doesn't have to work or anything like the other hobbits. He's not like your average hobbits. Or, no, what's the phrase? I'm not your ordinary hobbit.
Right.
Do you guys have any good quotes that come to mind? We're kind of talking about pros and vibes. Any that stick out to you that you remember or wrote down?
Oh, gosh. There were definitely moments that I enjoyed, but none that I can recall. Or no specific lines that I can recall.
A good bumper sticker one for me is if more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. By Thorin Oakenshield during his redemption arc.
Yeah.
And Ben says the prose is better than he remembers. So.
Nice.
Yep, and I think the only... Oh, go ahead, Arn, if you got some.
I was just going to say, like Mike, I remember enjoying a lot of it, but there's nothing I wrote down or that I can remember off the top of my head. But I know they're in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess the description of the...
Larkenstone.
Yeah, the Arkenstone was really good. I enjoyed... Oh, the term "Old Tom Noddy." We did a bit of a word study on that. Apparently, I believe it's a Welsh term. Tom and Noddy were both actually separate insults.
Oh.
And together, he's basically just calling them a stupid idiot. But yeah, there was actually a decent amount of etymology that went into that particular insult.
Who gets called the Tom Noddy? Or what's the
spiders?
Okay.
Old Tom Noddy, all big body.
Oh yeah, because they were taunting. Yep. Yeah. All right. I think the only things I missed from people that comment down below in our Discord was Becca liked how both times Bilbo meets a creature in a cave, he just starts spewing riddles. And then Cantwell really...
It's a stress mechanism.
It is. It's like, you know how Lou, when he gets nervous, starts taking off clothes, Bilbo will just start spewing riddles. And Cantwell really enjoys how in the first chapter we figured out the origins of golf. The Hobbit.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And in that moment, the battle was won, and the game of golf invented at the same time.
There we go. Yeah, so if you guys have only seen the movie, I'd highly recommend checking out the book. It's so much better. A lot of you can chop it down, a lot of what happens in the movie to get to what's in the book. But, I mean, you heard us all gush about it, so go on and check it out. Any final words to say before we close out our first ever book club for the month of March?
Vote for The Last Apprentice.
Nah,
I remember
Kings
it
of the
being
Wild.
really good.
Guards by Terry Pratchett.
It is good. I don't think it's going to win at this point, though. Unless maybe things have changed since our last book. But did you guys know that I haven't actually seen all the Hobbit movies?
That's
I've only
I
seen
still
the
did
first,
the first one.
The first one I
Yeah,
thought was
I
a
saw-
fun movie, but a bad adaptation.
I think that's fair.
That
I
might
watched
be
the
true.
first one. It might be true.
Yeah, I was just angry the whole time. So, and I didn't like there was something about the way they filmed it that made it just feel weird. But that was like a stylistic choice. That's a whole separate conversation.
It's the
Sure.
frames with the camera.
Hmm.
Yeah, I saw it whenever it came out. I think I would have been 9 or 10.
In
I don't even know when it
2013?
came out at this point.
2013. That's my senior year of high
2013?
school. Skip school. My mom let me go to skip school the next day after I went and saw it for midnight. The midnight release. Thank you, Mom.
So I would have been younger. That can't be right. Maybe I saw it when like Desolation of Smaug was coming out, but I saw it in that like 8, 9, 10 range. And I because I was younger and couldn't fully grasp things. I enjoyed it, but also was like, this isn't the book, and I was kind of ticked off. And I never watched them until a couple of years ago. I found it was a 4-hour cut of all 3 movies, and it was cut to be like more faithful to the book. And I watched that through. I don't really think it was. I wouldn't like tell other people to go watch it, just because it is fundamentally pieces of movies chopped up and stuck together, and there's no getting away from that. But it was enjoyable enough for me to finish it in like 3 sittings. But
yeah, I've
never seen all 3 of them.
I have one of those fan edits saved. I think it's on YouTube or something. So yeah, I've been meaning to watch it before this, but yeah, I have not. I don't know how they did an extended version of the Hobbit movies, but
That's insane.
Yeah.
Will say, while I was reading it, I was like, man, I would watch just the fight scene from the Battle of the Five Armies. That sounds pretty cool.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, that sucks.
It was such a bad movie. The only reason I saw it is because I was working at a theater at the time. It was for free. That's how disappointed I was with the first 2. But yeah, I'm like, this is dumb. The CGI was worse than the Lord of the Rings they made 10 years earlier.
Dang, that's depressing.
I wonder what the budget comparison is though between their CGI budget for Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit. Because I mean, Lord of the Rings, they had like, then they had like some large battle scene shots and like large scale stuff, but nothing like super detailed. So I just wonder about the difference between that.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it was like $1 million for the first 3 Lord of the Rings movies they had, which at the time was like huge for 3 movies, but that was like the spend, or maybe it's 10 million.
I was gonna say $1 million is small for
maybe it was
movies.
10 million or it was some multiple of it was 1, 10, or 100. Either way, it was for the time it was a lot. But
Yeah.
double check that up if you're interested. But Arn, you got anything you want to shout out? Any other books besides Guards people or Guards to go check out? Or anything in general?
Oh, any other books? I gave my friend recently The Name of the Wind and the Wise Man's Fear to read. If you don't
why'd you
mind
do
reading
that?
a series that might not have a 3rd book,
Yeah, it's worth it.
Go and read that. One of the greatest books I've ever read. It's worth it. And hey, I'm not someone who read it when it came out, but I am fully comfortable saying it's one of my favorite books and one of the greatest books I've ever read and greatest series I've ever read, regardless of whether or not the 3rd book comes out. I am comfortable saying that. and I will be comfortable if there is not a third book. So now that Rob is thoroughly ticked off,
I mean, I just it was more of the wise
out.
man's fear I was
Shout out
taking a
to-
shot at. 2/3 of it was good.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, there was definitely a slow part. I would say 3/4, but
Yeah, but shout out to my own bed. After being gone for 2 and a bit weeks, my own bed is great.
Nothing like that.
So
All right.
that's all I got.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us, Arn. If you guys enjoyed what you listened to, be sure to give us a like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Let us know what you thought of The Hobbit if you read along with us. What we miss? What are our hot takes? What are our cold takes? What are your takes? We'd love to hear them. Like I said, be sure to check out our Discord for the next book for next month. Other than that, thank you all for watching. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.
at yours, with yours and with your families.
Your
There it
mother.
is. At your service. At yours and your mamas.
Oh.